Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 29th March 2018. Now let us begin. Now from page 1, the first news we would be analyzing is about the National Testing Agency. Now the reason why National Testing Agency is in the news is not relevant with regards to your UPSC examination paper. So what we'll do is understand the National Testing Agency from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination. Now the National Testing Agency was announced in the Union Budget speech of 2017-18, and the mandate of the National Testing Agency is mainly derived from two reports. The first being the Program for Action for the Implementation of the National Policy of Education of 1986, and the second is the National Knowledge Commission report of 2006-9, and both of these reports mention the formation of a national testing service. Now hopefully up till here you have understood that the National Testing Agency was announced in the Union Budget speech of 2017-18, and the mandate for the National Testing Agency is mainly derived from the Program for Action for the Implementation of the National Policy of Education of 1986 and the National Knowledge Commission report of 2006-2009, wherein both these reports mention forming the National Testing Service. Now let us understand the main features of the National Testing Agency. Now this agency will initially conduct the entrance examinations which are currently conducted by the Central Board of Secondary Education or CBSE. Now these tests would be like the National Eligibility Test for Assistant Professors and Junior Research Fellowship, the NEET examination, the Engineering examination of JEE, among other various entrance examinations that CBSE currently conducts. The second feature would be that the National Testing Agency would conduct other examinations in the coming future, such as other examinations which are conducted by the All India Council of Technical Education with regards to the GATE examination, among others. Apart from this, the National Testing Agency would be under the purview of the Ministry of Human Resource Development. And lastly, the National Testing Agency has been registered as a society under the Indian Society Registration Act of 1860. Now hopefully up till here you have understood the main features of the National Testing Agency, wherein it would initially conduct the entrance examination such as the NET exam, among others which are currently conducted by CBSE. Moreover, it would also conduct other examinations in the future such as those conducted by the All India Council for Technical Education. Moreover, the National Testing Agency would be under the Ministry of Human Resource and Development and is registered as a society under the Indian Society Registration Act of 1860. Now if we take a look at the previously asked questions in your prelims examination, questions have specifically been asked on government schemes or institutions within the reference of its purpose or aim. And with the explanation given in this section, you understand the purpose of the National Testing Agency, and moreover you also understand the various features of the National Testing Agency that might be asked specifically in the statements of the prelims question. And with regards to your UPSC main syllabus, National Testing Agency would be a part of GS Paper 2 under the section Issues relating to management of social sector services relating to education. And now with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 9. Now what this article talks about is electric vehicles and the FAME scheme. Now this article is already in a question answer format, so we'll try to understand this article within this format itself. So with regards to the first question, does India have a policy to promote electric vehicles? Now according to this article, the Government of India has no plan for a separate policy on electric vehicles. And moreover, the Government of India has set no target for a shift to electric vehicles, wherein the Government of India has left it to the automotive industry to determine the scale and the pace of transition from fossil fuel based automobiles to electric or hybrid vehicles. And apart from this, the Government of India is incentivizing purchases of electric vehicles through the FAME scheme. So now hopefully up till here you have understood that the Government of India has no plan for a separate policy on electric vehicles and has set no targets for a shift to electric vehicles from the current fossil fuel based automobiles. But nevertheless, the Government of India is incentivizing purchases of electric vehicles through the FAME scheme. Now, before moving forward with the other questions, let us first understand as to what is the FAME scheme from your upcoming prelims examination perspective. Now, the FAME scheme is being implemented by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Now the objective of this scheme is to support hybrid and electric vehicles in the form of its market reach and creation of an ecosystem of manufacturing. Now the focus area of this scheme is first technology development, the second is demand creation, the third is pilot project, and the fourth is charging infrastructure. Now apart from this, there's one specific feature of this scheme that you should also know, that this scheme does not subsidize or incentivize battery components, but this scheme does support research and development in the technology for battery components. Now hopefully up till here, with regards to the FAME scheme, you understand that it is under the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, and the objective of this scheme is to support hybrid and electric vehicles and to create a demand market for electric vehicles and to support a manufacturing ecosystem for hybrid and electric vehicles. You also understand that the focus areas of the FAME program is of technology development, demand creation, pilot project, and to form charging infrastructure. Now one exceptional feature of this scheme is that it does not subsidize or incentivize battery components, since battery components are very expensive in nature. But what this scheme does is it supports research and development in the technology for battery components. Now let us understand the main challenges and benefits of electric vehicles. Now the main advantage, as highlighted in the article, is that it would reduce oil consumption and thereby reduce the related pollution. Now the challenges, as highlighted in the article with regards to electric vehicles is that there is a lack of availability of charging infrastructure. Now electric vehicles require special charging stations, and this infrastructure for charging stations is very expensive and requires a certain amount of demand of electric vehicles before it can be implemented on a very large scale. Now another challenge with regards to electric vehicles is the maintenance and recycling of electric batteries. Now the electric batteries contain a lot of toxic elements such as cadmium, nickel, among other, which after a battery has been used leak into the environment within the landfills, and therefore a proper recycling system of these batteries is required to avoid environmental damage from the harmful elements that are within these electric batteries. Now hopefully up till here you've also understood the advantage of electric vehicles, that it would reduce oil consumption and the related pollution. And apart from this, you also understand the challenges that the article has highlighted in the form that there is a lack of charging infrastructure in India. And moreover, there is also a lack of infrastructure for the maintenance and recycling of electric batteries. Now the FAME scheme becomes important for your prelims examination. So with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 10. Now before understanding as to why this article is in the news, let us first understand as to what is a collegium. Now the Collegium System is one where the Chief Justice of India and a forum of 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court recommend appointment and transfer of judges of higher judiciary. And this Collegium System evolved through 3 different judgments which are collectively known as the 3 judges case. Now hopefully up till here you have understood that the Collegium consists of the Chief Justice of India and the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court, and this Collegium recommends the appointment and transfer of judges of the higher judiciary. And moreover, you also understand that this Collegium system evolved through 3 different judgments which are collectively known as the 3 judges cases. Now recently this Collegium system gained prominence with regards to the National Judicial Appointments Commission Bill. Now as you might know, the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court are appointed by the President of India. However, the method and manner of their appointment to the higher judiciary has not been clearly provided in the Constitution. Thus, the process for appointment, elevation, and transfer of judges to the higher judiciary has been a debatable issue due to the overlapping nature of the legislative, executive, and the judiciary. So, with regards to this issue, the Government of India passed the 121st Amendment Bill of 2014 to establish a National Judicial Appointments Commission, whereby this National Judicial Appointment Commission, or the NJAC, would effectively replace the Collegium system. But however, a 5 judge-judge bench of the Supreme Court declared the NJAC as unconstitutional. Thereby, the Supreme Court effectively revives the Collegium system. Now recently, this Collegium system is one where the Chief Justice of India and a forum of 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court recommend appointment and transfer of judges of the higher judiciary. And this Collegium recommends the appointment and transfer of judges of the higher judiciary. Thereby, the Supreme Court effectively revives the Collegium system. Now hopefully up till here you've also understood why the issue of collegium has recently gained prominence, wherein as per the Constitution of India, judges of the Supreme Court and High Court are appointed by the President. But the method and the manner of their appointment to the High Judiciary has not been clearly provided in the Constitution, and therefore became a debatable issue due to the overlapping nature of the legislature, executive, and the judiciary. And to rectify this, the Government of India passed the 121st Amendment Bill of 2014, wherein it established the National Judicial Appointment Commission. And this NJAC effectively replaced the Collegium System. But the Supreme Court of India, in a 5-judge bench, declared the NJAC as unconstitutional, and thereby again reviving the Collegium System. Now to understand as to why this article is in the news, a 2-judge bench of the Supreme Court observed that there is a need to implement the suggestions which had been given by the 5-judge Constitution bench in the NGAC case, wherein the suggestions given by the 5-judge bench in the NGAC case was for more efficiency, transparency, and accountability with respect to the appointment of judges through the Collegium system, and to create an independent secretariat which would assist the Collegium in cases of appointment. Now, as you might know, in this respect, the Chief Justice of India has made public all the recommendations of the Collegium with respect to judicial appointments, transfer, and elevation of judges to the High Court and the Supreme Court. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've also understood as to why this article is in the news. That a 2-judges bench has observed that there is a need to implement the suggestions that have been given by a 5-judge Constitution bench in the NGAC judgment, wherein one of the suggestions was to create a secretariat, wherein one of the suggestion was to create a constitution of a secretariat to assist the Collegium in appointment. Now, what is a Collegium and the current issues of the Collegium gaining prominence and the recent issue highlighted in this article of an independent secretariat are important from a basic understanding, and this information also becomes more relevant in terms of your mains examination paper. So with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 9. Now according to this article, the Economic Survey of 2017-18 had identified renewable energy as a champion sector for Make in India. The Government of India is focusing upon domestic manufacturing of solar panels. And the Government of India is focusing on improving the domestic manufacturing of solar panels by providing considerable subsidies and ensuring trade regulations. However, the authors in this article have raised 4 issues associated with this approach. Now, India currently imports 90% of its solar panels, and to rectify this problem, the Government of India is implementing trade remedies in form of safeguard duties on import of panels. Now, according to the author, imposing trade regulations will have short-term benefits, but in the long term, it will have a negative impact, and it would have a long-term loss because it would result in higher tariffs. Now consider this. Let's say a solar panel is imported from China at rupees 100, but by imposing safeguard duties, the price for a solar panel rises to rupees 110. But India, because it does not have a strong manufacturing base, is anyways producing solar panels at rupees 105. So if the Government of India imposes safeguard duties on solar panels, it would result in higher tariffs because the ones that are being imported from China would get more expensive, while the imposition of these safeguard duties do not reduce the prices of solar panels that are being manufactured in India. Hence, when earlier the solar panels were priced at rupees 100 before the safeguard duties, they would now be priced from rupees 105 to rupees 110. And because of this higher tariffs, which require these solar panels, would now have to pay more, whereby it would make solar power less attractive. Now the second issue raised by the author, that India, while implementing these measures to promote renewable energy, needs to ensure that it does not violate global trade rules. Wherein earlier, India had already lost a case against the United States in the World Trade Organization with regards to its policies on the use of solar panels, in specific to the domestic content requirement. Now the third issue raised by the author is that India should ensure that the policies of its different ministries are in sync with each other. And for this, the author has recommended an interministerial committee under the Ministry of Renewable Energy, which should ensure that the various actions of different ministries are synchronized to a common goal and objective. Now the fourth and the last issue that the authors have raised is that Government of India should not have an excessive focus on solar power generation, wherein the authors have recommended a green manufacturing mix, wherein those industries which are currently growing, such as of energy storage, electric vehicles, among others, should also be equally focused upon. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've understood that the Economic Survey of 2017-18 has identified renewable energy as a champion sector for Make in India, and because of which the Government of India has been focusing on domestic manufacturing of solar panels by providing subsidies and trade regulations. Now, the author has raised issues with this approach, wherein trade regulations, in the form of safeguard duties on imports of solar panels, will result in higher tariffs. And moreover, according to the author, India should not form policies which would violate global trade rules, as in the form of the domestic content requirement policy which India had lost in the World Trade Organization. Apart from this, the author has also recommended that an interministerial committee under the Ministry of Renewable Energy should be formed so that the policies of different ministries can be in synchronization. And finally, the author has recommended that India should avoid overt focus on solar power generation and should rather focus on a green manufacturing mix, and this mix would include electric vehicles, energy storage, apart from solar power generation. Now, with regards to your UPSC main syllabus, domestic content requirement has already been asked in your prelims examination, and moreover, the content given in this article and the explanation given in this section becomes important from your UPSC main syllabus, in particular to your GS paper 3 in the economic development section, and more specifically, infrastructure, energy. And so with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 10. Now with regards to this article, the first thing that we'll understand as to why is it in the news. The second thing would be the proposed Farmers' Freedom from Indebtedness Bill of 2018, and the second proposed Farmer Rights to Guaranteed Remunerative Minimum Support Price for Agriculture Commodities Bill of 2018. So now let us first understand as to why is it in the news. Now the reason this article is in the news because a group of farmers and farmer unions have decided to present two bills, wherein one of the bill is intended to ensure remunerative prices to agricultural produce, and the second bill is with regards to loan waiver for distressed farmers. Now these farmer unions and groups of farmers have sought the help of political parties to introduce these bills in the parliament, wherein several political parties have forwarded their support of the introduction of these two bills within the Indian Parliament. So now let us understand both of these bills, and we will start first with the Farmers' Freedom from Indebtedness Bill of 2018. Now the first point of the Farmers' Freedom from Indebtedness Bill of 2018 is to confer a right on indebted farmers to obtain immediate, one-time, complete loan waiver. And under this bill, this complete loan waiver is both from banks and private money lenders. The second point is that this bill intends to provide for protection of debt trap for farmers suffering from natural disasters or distress. The third point of this bill is that it proposes to set up a Judicial Distress Commission and a Disaster Relief Commission to deal with crop-specific distress situations, and both of these commissions would be set up at both state level and national level. The fourth point of this bill is that it aims to prevent suicide of farmers that have been taking place due to agrarian distress and the related debt traps. Now the fifth point of this bill is that it casts an obligation on the state under Article 21 to safeguard right to livelihood, which is an essential part of right to life for such farmers who are in acute distress. The sixth and the last main point of this bill is that it aims to reform the institutional credit support system by providing access to institutional credit as a right to all categories of farmers. Now hopefully up till here you have understood the main points of the Farmers' Freedom from Indebtedness Bill of 2018. Now let us understand the main points of the second proposed bill. Now the second bill is the Farmers' Right to Guaranteed Remunerated Minimum Support Price for Agriculture Commodities Bill of 2018. Now the first feature of this bill is that it intends to confer a right on all farmers to obtain a guaranteed remunerative minimum support price with a minimum 50% profit margin over the cost of production. Now the second point of this bill is that it bars the auction or offer of price below the guaranteed remunerative minimum support price for any agricultural commodity. Now the third point of this bill is that it provides for a constitution of farmers' agricultural cost and remunerative price guarantee commission at both the state and the central level. The fourth point of this bill is that it provides for a grievance redressal mechanism and for compensation to farmers if they do not get the guaranteed remunerated MSP. The fifth and the last main point of this bill is that it provides for a three-member block level grievance redressal committee which would be under the state commission to receive and resolve every individual complaint from farmers. Now hopefully up till here you've also understood the basic features of the farmer's right to guaranteed remunerated MSP for agriculture commodities bill of 2018. Now you have to understand that both this bill have been proposed by an agricultural groups and how these bills are introduced within the parliament, in which form and with which features has to be seen in the future. So for now this news is in transition. Now with this we come to an end in the analysis of today's paper. Now we move on to the question for today.